Okay.
Are we live?
I think we are. Should be working now. And
yes.
We seem to have some support as well let's call it director's chair or something. But
so let's
all of this should be now working.
So let's start.
So we can start, yes.
Good evening, everybody.
There we go. You can see that the stream is now operational, which means we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, in terms of our guests who are already online.
Good evening,
and
everybody.
to our guests who are actually present here. Good evening, yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have a new setup.
Yes.
Welcome to the first live stream. I'm beardless today.
Yeah.
I lost my beard during the last preparations for the podcast, so I'm sorry.
We shall survive that somehow. Yes. You are beardless because of a traffic accident with some kind of a tool that went through your face.
But any case, we have a different show today.
Yes.
First and foremost, we are live. Second thing is that we have guests, multiple guests that are going to be reintroduced a little bit later. Mm-hmm. And let's start. No news, nothing else today. Let's go straight to the point.
Yeah, then no news today because this is meant to be a live stream and we have a specific topic that we want to cover. So therefore we decided that news would be just too much. Basically, our topic today is related to IT education, specifically two different means of IT education, which is college type of IT education and IT certification. Those two things can be something that happens, let's say, in parallel tracks to one another, or it can be something that somebody pursues via one alley or the other. Doesn't really matter which way you go. Our topic today is to try to explain why both of these things can be so important and how does that work from the perspective of some of the things that Jasmin and I do specifically. Because as we mentioned a couple of times already on our podcast, both of us work as, let's say, private college professors or something like that. And we have extensive knowledge in terms of, extensive experience in terms of teaching people how to get to grips with various types of IT technologies.
Okay, let's start with introducing ourselves.
Yes.
Vedran, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Vedran. I am head of Department of Operating System at University College Algebra, whatever you want to call it. And I am a RedHat, VMware, and Microsoft trainer with more than 15 years of experience in terms of delivering training. And this year marks the 10th anniversary of me being also involved in higher education. Jasmin?
So, my name is Jasmin. I'm also a trainer for the Red Hat, and I'm a lecturer here. Officially, Vedran is my boss here at Algebra, but he hates being called that, so we are working basically on the same team. My job is basically to teach everything related to Linux and open source other open source courses here at Algebra. And also I do Red Hat lecturing whenever there is an opportunity to do this. And I like Linux.
Yeah, he is our resident Linux, not so much or yes so much troll.
So let's switch to our guests and just quickly let them introduce themselves. Shall we do it from left to right or right to left?
Whichever way you want to go. It's all fine with us.
Okay.
Hello, good evening. My name is Mate. I'm a student at Algebra, 5th year, my final year of graduate studies in systems engineering. Currently work as a DevOps engineer in a company called Reversing Labs. And I'm here to talk about my experience both at Algebra and the rest of the certification path I took.
Hi people, my name is Luka Tomislav Galic. I'm 27 years old. I'm currently doing my undergraduate studies in Algebra University, and I work as a DevOps and site reliability engineer for Deutsche Telekom Cloud Services, and that's for now pretty much it.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Carlo. I've studied at Algebra for the last 5 years. This is my final year. And I work as a DevOps and site reliability engineer at Deutsche Telekom Cloud Services. And I as well as Jasmin, I like Linux.
Thank you, thank you. So there is two of us here. Let me quickly just go through the idea and why we are even here. I must say that I'm extremely proud because these three guys here are all managed to do the certification on the Red Hat Architect level. And this means that they have spent pretty much more than 2 hours in total trying to prepare for different exams that Red Hat does. And we are going to talk a lot about this tonight. The reason why we even wanted to be here and why we even wanted to invite them here is to try to provide insight into what motivates all of us here with different backgrounds, with different types of education, to first embrace Linux as an operating system, or embrace Linux as a call, that's something that we can do. And the other thing is that we are trying to see what is the motivation to actually go and learn something. Because you cannot force people to learn. You can actually only make them to learn. So you can motivate them, you can nourish their idea of learning, but you need to do something for them to embrace learning as for themselves. So Vedran, where shall we start?
I think that guys should, because they are the stars of the show today, I think they should start by introducing, let's say, themselves from the perspective of how they came to, let's say, into our lives, from the perspective of signing into a college, and what is their reason for wanting to obtain some kind of a college degree, and how does that respond with their plans for the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. I finished high school in my hometown, Samobor, and as everyone else in my last year of high school, I started scouting for different colleges around our area, and I never really thought I would enroll in Algebra for, I don't know, my ignorant reasons at the time, but I actually joined the winter Ninja Academy here at Algebra.
Okay.
I saw the whole approach of professors towards us. I saw the whole sort of system of values in here, and I actually loved it. I sort of fell in love on the first sight, and thankfully through my wishes and my parents' decisions, I enrolled here at Algebra, where I met you.
So, but what drove you to the light side, to the side of the force? Because if I remember correctly, you started as a Windows guy. And
I did.
You decided that Windows is going to be better than Linux.
Yes, that's a long story. But my first religion in IT was really Microsoft and Windows specifically. I loved Windows administration, but primarily because I loved PowerShell. I now realize that love was neither for Windows nor PowerShell, it was for automation.
Okay, so you had the idea of basically trying to use the computers as they're meant to be used. And the Linux is then the next obvious step into the right direction. I'm not judging. I'm not judging. Which Linux distribution? Which distribution do you like more? Windows 10 or Windows 11?
Windows 10 at the moment.
Okay. I'm just.
He prefers keeping his sanity in check.
Yes, Luca.
Well, as opposed to Bas and Carlo, I took the long way around. I first enrolled into the College of Polytechnics of Zagreb after finishing my high school, which was the Electrotechnical School of Zagreb. So I was pretty much coming from a technical school where we already had like programming and actually CCNA Academy. So I had the pleasure of having the experience to learn programming and a bit of networking while I was in high school. So after enrolling in the Polytechnics University, I kind of didn't take it too seriously, which caused me to lose about 7 years of studying. But at the end, I finally found what I was looking for in terms of formal studies, which is algebra. So,
But I wouldn't say that you lost. Every year that you actually spent on studying is probably something that you gained gave you experience. So I wouldn't say
Maybe
that.
he wanted to say something else. Maybe he wanted to say that he didn't invest time in studying.
But he did learn something.
Yes, how to game, perhaps.
So it is maybe an unorthodox way of approaching the studies, but I don't think that any time spent trying to learn something is wasted. You may not learn what you started to, but you learn something along the way, so it's not wasted time.
the problem is that, like in my subjective opinion, like 90% of the subjects there didn't really interest me. And because I was coming from a technical high school background, I didn't take, for example, my programming subject seriously. So when we started doing objective programming, I didn't really follow the courses that we were doing. And, you know, I can probably have my gripes with the way of learning there. But to be honest, if I like took the book in my hands back then, I'd probably finish it. So yeah, like, and like you said, Professor, gaming, I was also an amateur esports player for Rainbow Six Siege.
You want to hear a secret?
Go ahead.
We kind of were in the same ballpark when we were as young as you were, so we have a different perspective or different disposition to what you were saying, because I did mention that you probably invested time in gaming, but it's something that's also quite, let's say, something that Jasmin and myself are intimately aware of as well.
And before we let Carlo do his stuff, what drove you into Linux?
Pretty much we had to do a practicum for the university back then. When you get to the third year, you have to like work a full working month in some company. And our acquaintance Jakov Denona,
Okay.
yeah, he told me to apply for a company that was looking for like junior Linux technicians for web hosting support. And yeah, because at first I wanted to be a programmer, and I was really bad in programming in the prior college because I wanted to make video games. But then our friend Yakov told me, hey, why don't you join this company? They're looking for a junior techs. And
So basically, fake it till you make it. No Linux experience, but applying for a job with.
Oh yeah, like I still have my old notes, like old notepad with notes I scribbled of commands, and I said that uptime means how long the domain has been up.
Okay.
I still have that.
Okay, it's close to truth, but okay. Carlo.
I'm having some issues with my mic. Is it okay?
Yes.
It's all good.
Well, actually, I didn't even want to study IT. I wanted to enroll into philosophy. And then my father pulled me aside and said, hey man, think about it. Think about what you can live off. And then I thought about it. And I looked at FAIR and FOI and what's your faculty called?
Polytechnics of Zagreb.
Yeah, Polytechnics of Zagreb, but I didn't have really good grades in high school, so basically algebra was a way out. Let's say a way out, yeah. And yeah, I enrolled here. I didn't know what to expect. I read the curriculum, but you know, you don't really know what awaits you until you actually start doing it. And the first year it was okay, but on the second year when I got to know Vedran and you, I really started understanding what's it all about. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Before we continue, I will do one thing. I will ask Vedran to try to get us the quick and dirty introduction to what does it mean, RHI, RHA, RHCA, and so on.
All of those weird acronyms that we need to discuss.
And what it actually means, because in the next couple of hours we're going to probably be mentioning RedHat a lot, and it would help us if people who are following us here knew what we are talking about if they are unsure. I know that some of the people who are going to look at this are going to be completely in the know of everything, but let's start with the basics.
Okay. So my journey is also very compatible to theirs. I started using Linux because of at least Lucas. I had to do some projects in college, just like you did as well. And it started to be very interesting because right around that time, Red Hat started to appear as a brand, basically. And I made a wild guess that they are probably going to be a good brand for the future. And it was more of a poker thing than it was anything that was completely conscious. I was way too young to make those sorts of decisions, and I'm sure you guys have had your fair share of those situations as well. When I finished college, I started working, I restarted working actually as an IT journalist, while on the side I was still thinking about whether or not to go to Linux route. And at a certain point in time, I went to Red Hat's website, checked what they have there, and I was faced with a new term that I never heard about, which was certification. Back then, Red Hat's website wasn't as good as it is today. It wasn't really all that easy to find information. So I noticed a couple of weird acronyms. RHCSA, RHCE, RHCI, RHCX. Back then, the architect level didn't exist. Architect level was introduced way later, 7-8 years after I passed my first Red Hat exam, which was in 2004 or something like that. So on a scale, in terms of difficulty level and in terms of the procedure, first exam on the way to becoming Red Hat whatever is Red Hat Certified System Administrator. That all of the Red Hat certifications are practical. There are no theoretical questions. So in order for you to obtain that certificate, you have to pass a practical exam that basically consists of you having to do something. Back then it was physical machines. Nowadays it's on virtual machines. That exam followed on the topics of 2 courses because it took roughly 80 hours to kind of prepare people for that examination. The next level after that is called Red Hat Certified Engineer, RHCE. And that exam is not only, I always said that it's not a knowledge-based exam. It's something that requires way more than knowledge. It's about having it like at the tips of your fingers without thinking about it, that level knowledge. That's what Red Hat Certified Engineer was up till version 8. When they switched to Ansible. The exams at the time when I started going to Red Hat exams, they were way more difficult than where they are today. Trust me on that. Carlo is giving me the look, yeah, but they really were much more difficult than what they are today.
I'm going to just quickly interrupt you with my own story, because what actually drew me into Red Hat territory and Red Hat exams is because this is probably one of the only exams that I know of that is completely free of brain dumps, of shortcuts, of everything. Because if you know what you're doing, you're going to pass the exam. If you don't know what you're doing, you are probably going to fail. It is much harder to try to cheat your way, and by cheating, I don't mean that there is a actual way on cheating.
There is, but it's a waste of time.
Trying to dump enormous amount of information into your brain and trying to pass this exam is something that is completely futile. And this is what I like about this. Mm-hmm. Because what drew me is that there is no way for people who don't know to pass the exam. And also, it gives you an ability to actually say, okay, I understand Linux and I know what Linux is about because I managed to pass the exam that is completely standardized.
Yeah, okay. So I passed those 2 levels in 2004, and then a company that where I did the exams asked me if I wanted to be an instructor. So that's the next level that you can attend as well. That's let's say a side track to what these guys have done, to Mate, Luca, and Carlo, because it's a side track that leads you into education paths, not into so much practical paths, which is a little bit different. And that is related to a certification called RHCI, which is related to Red Hat Certified Instructor, and there's a Red Hat Certified Examiner, or RHCX there. So if you want to become somebody who teaches people Red Hat, you went there. But Right around the time when I passed those two exams, Red Hat started kind of like, they gave some test balloons, let's call them that way, on the internet that they're going to introduce another level, which is nowadays and still called Red Hat Certified Architect. Back then, it also consisted of 5 exams, but it was 5 exams out of 7 exams, and out of those exams, 4 were mandatory. 1 was something that you can elect to do, like non-mandatory exam. And those exams were actually quite a bit bigger than what they are today. But they were also they were way too difficult in a sense. I remember a security exam, a free exam code 10 plus years ago. That was something that you had to study for 6 months, really, literally. So atop of these system administrator and engineer level, we have the highest level of Red Hat certification, which is that Red Hat Certified Architect, which is what these 3 guys are. That even today still requires 5 additional exams plus, because you can recertify with new exams from that level. But unlike what it used to be, it's a little bit more elective. You have a little bit more leeway in terms of which exams you take, which is actually, I think, a very good move from Red Hat, because in the older days, the architect exam was only for people who are really crazy. Because when you pass the architect level, you are basically forced constantly to be in a recertification cycle all over again, which was completely crazy because exams were very difficult, and you didn't have a lot of leeway in terms of electing what you want to do, which is what you today have, which is something that Red Hat introduced to the benefit of everybody, which is a good move, absolutely good move. Back then, nowadays you have 20 plus different exams on the architect level that you can choose from, which means that you can study for certain topics that are related perhaps to the topics that you cover on your work as well, which is excellent.
Okay, let's now get the guys to talk a bit. Let's talk about first the exams themselves. Do you think that they are too hard, that they are simple? How many hours do you think that you spend trying to become a RHCA? Because the exams themselves are different from perspective of different people. For me, because I didn't. First and foremost, you are better in this than me, because I didn't achieve your level. I know that for me, one of the exams was easy, the other was hard. It was hard because it required complete practical knowledge of everything, and I know that the hardness or the complexity of the exam is completely subjective, because it depends on your prior knowledge, it depends on your motivation, it depends on everything else.
The work that you do, if you have prior experience, can have a huge role in it as well.
So, are the exams hard?
Well, for me personally, since when I first started with the Certified System Administrator certificate, I had like 2 years of prior knowledge of working on Linux. So when I started reading the course, I didn't need to I actually, to be honest, I took only a week to do it, to read the entire course, to prepare myself. And when I got to that exam, I was done in an hour and a half, something like that.
Which is actually an average of how much time our regular system engineering student takes on RHCA exam today. I know because I do these exams.
Yeah, that's where we met actually.
Yeah.
But the hardest was probably either troubleshooting or OpenStack, one of those two.
So it took you more than 2 hours to prepare?
Actually for troubleshooting it took me just lab time, 89 hours. Because I was, doing the college duties as well, while trying to do the troubleshooting, since, troubleshooting does contain some kind of arcana obscura, if you're looking at it for the first time.
Which was the easiest for you?
Not counting the system administrator.
No, count it in.
Okay, system administrator, yeah.
And
that was
after
the
that?
Virtualization.
We agree.
Yeah.
Mate?
Oh, I think when it comes to difficulty, first of all, I think they're just on par where you would expect an exam to be. It's not that difficult, really, that coming from someone who failed 3 exams, I think.
Failing is part of the
proud
learning.
of it.
So, yeah, I mean, it took me 2 tries to pass 3 of them, I think.
Yes, but failing is part of the exam, so
Definitely.
and you need to fail to learn. We were talking about before this. We were talking about that you need to be able to fail, and you need somebody else to pay for your failures.
Yes, that's something that we discussed in
Yes.
one of the podcasts, which is completely true.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah. When it comes to the most difficult one, I think for me it was OpenShift automation and integration exam. And for the easiest one, I guess I would agree with everyone that it's virtualization. But we have to take that with a grain of salt. We spent a lot of time talking about virtualization, working on virtualization in college prior to us actually attending the exam. Both in other technologies, both in other virtualization platforms, and the open virtualization, or whatever is OVIRT called. So yeah, we had some mileage with virtualization before we actually attended.
Yes, I'm just going to tout my own horn and say, how much did we help you with the different courses during the actual college part? How those courses that we prepared for you prepared you for the certification themselves? Because for those of you who don't follow the idea that is here, we have 2 different things. These guys are both on the college, and they are RedHat certified. Certification is something that you do by yourself. So if you want to certify something, you can actually prepare it by yourself. You can do the courses and so on, and then you go to the exam.
But, and there is a big but, as a part of our study program, we also encourage our students to take certifications, and some of them are covered by their tuition as well.
Yes, but what I want to just say, did those courses help? Because you said that virtualization was interesting to you and you had prior knowledge thanks to the college. How much do you think that you gained from the college itself, and how much did you have to take by yourself trying to learn new stuff just for the particular exams?
For virtualization in particular, it was 95% college and 5% my own repetition, basically. Mainly, as I said, because we worked on other platforms as well. And in order to pass a Red Hat exam, you not only need to understand the exam topic, you need to understand it in a context of an infrastructure. It's not a standalone technology that exists for itself. It's a technology that is supposed to support some part of someone's business. And we talked about that sort of system design stuff a lot. So the impact is obviously huge.
Okay. Carlo?
On the topic of how hard the exams are, Red Hat, I like to call it a curveball. So if you prepare perfectly for the exam, you'll know just enough to pass it. But if you don't prepare perfectly, you're probably going to fail, because a percentage of questions is inserted into the exam that's, let's say, who wants to know more, you know, on the topics, who wants to know more, yeah. And on the topic of how well did you prepare us with the programs at Algebra, for RHCA, say basically everything. I think I just went through the course just to freshen up a bit, but all of the topics were covered in the courses at Algebra. And virtualization also, it's just getting to know the menu, you know, from Red Hat. So
Yeah.
pretty good.
Okay.
Just to interrupt you there, KDE or Gnome?
Well, actually, I use Windows 11 as my base OS, and
we can love you for it.
Me too.
yeah, but I don't have an opinion on KDE versus Gnome, because I never used Linux with a desktop. I mean, like a desktop interface.
Let's go back to that topic a little bit later.
I'm going to pull it down. Is this the year of the Linux desktop?
I really hope so.
No, I doubt it.
No, maybe.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so skeptics all around.
What I'm not to answer to that question, right?
You already answered it a couple of times.
No,
I called it last year. It didn't happen. I'm calling it this year.
Yeah.
Let's see what will happen. But
Not Linux on desktop.
okay.
Additional question related to this. Basically, one of the things that we did here as a part of your studies is that we inserted into our college program a program from Red Hat called RedHat Academy. We became Academy member for Red Hat there, and partially the materials that we were able to use and provide for you from that platform helped you in at least some of the basic exams. So RedHat Certified System Administrator and Engineer part, and a little bit later because Mate and Carla are our graduate students, they also had another course where they could take advantage of the materials of the Red Hat Academy. How do you like that approach? I mean, combining basically college education with some kind of academic program which provides you access to all of the necessary materials so that you can prepare for the exam.
I mean, that was a huge blessing for us, really, because we had access to a lot of information, really. There's so much information on Red Hat Academy, you can't possibly ingest all of it. But these parts that we were interested in were fully available. We could use the labs, which are amazing. So yeah, that part was extremely helpful. Whether or not it should become bigger or make a bigger portion of our college studies, that's for someone else to decide. I'm not into that. But I definitely liked that part.
I can actually add something to that because people from Red Hat are aware that we are doing the podcast today. They actually promoted us as well on their, both the, let's say, education website, on the trainer forum, also on their website related to certification and career building opportunities as well. I had a recent discussion with them to add a couple of additional courses that they have already on the stack to Red Hat Academy, and my first pick was virtualization, because it's very easy exam to do. It's literally probably the easiest exam that they have in the stack, and second thing is it's very difficult to set it up in local environments. And difficult to kind of like get the message of that course, which is followed by the exam, to the students, because you need to have an environment in which that works. And it's really difficult to do that in our environment, in our labs, which we do here. So that was my first thing that I asked them. I also asked them to add security course into the Red Hat Academy, because there are a lot of people who are all around the world the teaching Red Hat Academy programs. All of them are in agreement that this is something that's sorely missing. Not only as a topic, that much is obvious. Security is very deeply inserted into our lives in IT nowadays. It's also something that needs to be put in focus for future generations. Very important topic to cover. Okay.
So what's next?
Well, we have a lot of additional topics to cover. Actually, in all honesty, let's put that out there so that the people know it. The Red Hat Academy program helped them at the beginning of their journey when they were still doing the Red Hat Certified Engineer and System Administrator exam. And one of our courses helped them for the virtualization exam, but everything else they basically did themselves. And this is something that I would really like to talk about, because the spotlight of this podcast is not necessarily us promoting Algebra. This is just like a side effect of things. It's not the primary content. I want to kind of like get into the discussion with you about what were your ideas behind pursuing Red Hat Architect level, because those, let's forget for a second the fact that you worked for IBM, and let's forget for a second that Red Hat certification was, let's say, free for you in a sense, and a lot of the materials. Leave that on the side for a second, because that's actually the result of a good opportunity that you guys took. So it was your career choice that made that available for you via confluence of different circumstances. But you initiated those circumstances by working for or with IBM. Doesn't really matter. So and the courses that prepare you for Red Hat Architect level are insanely expensive. And the exams are also quite a big cost for a non-IBM Red Hat employee, which is one of the reasons why not a lot of people go that way. But let's leave that for a second out of the discussion. I'm asking you, as regular people in the IT business, what drove you towards the idea of pursuing that as a career goal?
Well, for me, it was a combination of a couple of different things. First and foremost, I guess passion. Passion for IT, passion for this work, passion for this industry that I more or less inherited from you, both of you, and the rest of your crew. Second, it was partially because of spite, because I know that neither of you ever achieved an architect status.
Okay.
And it's, you know, the student becomes better than the professor.
And we like you all for that, because
I have no gripes with that.
yeah, one of the things that you need to get rid yourself of if you become an educator, one of the first things is you have to get rid of ego. And I just feel immense proud, like the immense amount of pride that you achieved this. No jealousy whatsoever. I want you to become better than me and myself and Jasmin at everything in life. And that means that we did our job right. At least partially.
And this is the reason why we created a live stream and then invited you all guys here. This is not because of the ego. We are trying to promote education. What is motivating me here is not the money, is not the time I'm going to spend here. It is just the ability to talk to you guys and to say, okay, what motivated these people to become one of the chosen ones, one of the few selected ones who selected themselves.
This is not a laughable topic. I talked to Carlo yesterday about this. He was laughing as well, but it's not a laughable topic.
Yeah,
this is serious business.
No, the problem is that becoming a RedHat architect is complicated.
It's difficult.
You know that you did it because of spite. This is completely okay, because I know you are the Windows guy, and then you took the right road.
Yeah. We're going to come back to that later.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you can always do the brain dumps when it comes to other exams. So this is an immensely complicated road that you took. I always think about what motivates you, tinkering, wanting to know more, trying to understand what is your chosen Linux distribution.
Arch, of course.
Okay, one of those guys. So, Luca, let's talk about you. Let's ignore the Arch guys for a second.
As per usual.
As per usual, yes.
He will recompile and then he'll come back.
Yeah, we'll give you some compile time.
Yes. The problem is that motivation is something that you need to have. What was your motivation?
Well, actually, it was pretty much being interested in automation at first, because with RHCA I wanted to go to RHCE. And back then I thought that would probably be my last ever certificate. I just have a tool, and I wanted to learn automation, and I know it was about Ansible. So I took that, and I don't know, like after that, the other certificates also seemed achievable. And plus, of course, I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't find it interesting. So it was, you know, curiosity and wanting to do something more than that which I've been doing back then for the last 2.5 years, which was pretty much, you know, classic like sysadmining, taking care of tickets, putting down fires, if you will. I wanted to have knowledge where I can actually contribute to system designing and stuff like that.
Okay, so growth.
Yeah.
Just trying to be better. Carlo?
Yeah, definitely curiosity. Without it, I wouldn't have done it. And I like to win at stuff. Yeah, and yeah, that's basically it. But one important thing to say is that if I actually hadn't enrolled into Algebra, this wouldn't have been possible. And especially you, Vedran, you actually pushed Mate, me, and some other guys that are not here with us. But you pushed us into RHCA, and I think we resisted initially.
You did.
We resisted initially, but that single push from you was the reason I got into IBM. the guy that hired me told me, hey, I had two guys, it was you or the other guy, and the other guy actually knew more than you, but you had RHCA and the client mandated that all employees be certified, and yeah, basically, thank you. Yeah,
My pleasure.
One thing led to another, and yeah, here we are.
Yeah, so let's
And
now.
I just wanted to circle back to something that Mate said because I like it so much. Because he is so much like me when I was his age. Do you know the reason why I attended Red Hat certification? Out of spite. Because the company that I worked for back then, which was an IT magazine, had a marketing contract with a company that delivered Red Hat training. And that company, at least on paper, was owed us, I don't know, 20,000 euros in today's money. And I asked the company owner to send me to Red Hat certification. He said no. I asked why. He said, well, because. And I said, okay. Next day, couple of phone calls, called my dad, said, your next task is to enroll me in Red Hat certification. Go fetch. And he called me 3 hours later and said, I paid for it. Go. Exactly out of spite. And exactly the same reasons. Our journeys are much more similar than what you think, generally speaking, but yeah.
Okay, so people learning Linux out of spite, people learning Linux to tinker.
That's you.
Let's switch topics because I don't like this trying to
Be
put you
serious.
guys. No. I don't like the putting you guys in front of the firing squad because we are not here to just say okay, you and you and you. Let's talk about tools. Is Linux a better tool than Windows?
Depends. Entirely depends on the use case. I mean,
this is what I was hoping for.
the tool is depends what you want to achieve. You know, there isn't a one size fits all solution for problems. So,
do you think that people who come to this level of knowledge start to understand that basically we don't care which operating system you're using?
yeah, basically, I really don't care what you use as long as you solve problems that we have to solve. You know.
Do you understand the ethos of what we were trying to teach you from that respect? Because I explicitly told you when we met on second year of your college, program that you shouldn't care which operating system it is. You should just know how to use it. That's it. That's the reason why we have parallel programs in Linux and Windows and VMware and everything else, because you need to know it all. That's it.
And did you come with the preconception about which operating system is better when you enrolled here? I'm talking about the first year, start of the second year probably, because this is probably the first time you actually saw Linux shown in educational fashion. So trying to be systemized, trying to be done in systematical way so that you can actually learn something about Linux. So what is your preconception? Which is the better operating system?
I mean, when I enrolled here, I already had like 3 years of Linux experience. And
you're the exception to the rule, but those two are different.
Yeah, but I didn't have like any experience of Windows administration even back from my previous college. But jumping to Windows administration after doing Linux administration, everything seemed, I don't know, like second nature. It was easy to pick up things coming from Linux to Windows.
That's exactly the story that Jasmin and myself went through as well.
I had no prior experience with administering anything before I came here. So it was, I guess, bad luck that the first thing that caught my eye was PowerShell. And it made me fall in love with this entire ecosystem. And I said, yes, this is the way to go. Right-click properties solves everything. Yes, that's it. I don't want to edit silly configuration files that makes no sense. But I don't know, something happened.
Something happened.
Flip switched.
Yeah, go ahead. I know you want to talk about it. I know I do. What happened?
What happened is you had a lecture, first of all.
Damn it.
You had a lecture that was supposed to be for one purpose. It had, obviously, its curriculum. It was supposed to cover a topic. I think specifically in Windows administration, doesn't really matter. But then it turned around.
It happens.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, tangents are something that we do well.
Yes. And what happened is the topic of our lecture turned around towards me. And specifically, it turned around towards my decisions that at the time, being extra young, I had no idea had so much implication on other people as well around me. What I did is I basically undervalued myself, I undervalued this industry, I undervalued all of my colleagues, I undervalued your work that you did with us by accepting a position that simply didn't do that, didn't value myself enough.
No, I remember the incident. We were calling you out every single week.
Yes.
Because you actually took a position in order to buy a mobile phone, if I'm correct.
Yes, I still have the phone.
I'm just recounting this.
It was a huge crush, huge slap to my ego, which has always been huge. And doing that in front of like 20 something people really influenced me, but in a good way in the end.
As it was meant.
I will take some credit that I realized this wasn't an attack on me directly. It wasn't about what I represent or what I am going to be one day, but rather an attack on my decisions right now, and that if I don't make a change at this moment and start valuing myself enough, I'm gonna end up like 95% of people unhappy with my results. And thank God I did something about it. And today it's a whole different story.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that very well because, yes, I made you, to pardon the pun, I made you the ass of some IT jokes. And I'm very proud of doing that, especially afterwards and more than once, and in private as well, and in our chats, because I think we all agree that he had it coming.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He deserved it because everything he said was correct. I would add something else. The problem with the approach that you young people sometimes take is the fact that you don't understand your surroundings, and you don't understand what happens when one of you makes something, does something, and then the second one repeats that, and the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one. All of a sudden it's a crowd, and all of a sudden it's a standard. It's not about the standard itself being wrong. You are allowed to make mistakes in life. That's not the topic. The topic is that sends the wrong signal to the market. And I always tried to consciously make you aware that decisions that you make in those regards have repercussions on people that are coming after you and after you and after you every single year. And it's a huge problem that always needed to be solved. And at that point in time, I was very proud of the fact that you understood that it's not about you. It's about the algorithm that you had in your head, which needed a baseball bat against it, which is what I did for you. And that's what we tend to do to our students as well. But actually, it was a continuation of some things that already happened previously, because it was not one job that happened. We had, I think with you as well, partially, Carlo, we had our give and take during the lectures because you were always acting a little bit of smart-assy. And I appreciate that. I encouraged that actually as well.
I always said that because before I enrolled here, I only knew him from the job we were working. And I always thought before enrolling that you guys here only taught hubris.
Yeah, you had a marketing term for that, Algebra hubris. Yeah, I heard you say that more than once. Yeah. I understand. It's not hubris. I think you are aware of what it is right now, and actually, I could kind of like act as a proxy for Jasmin as well to say something that seems completely stupid to say it in such a way, but still deserves to be said. It's about the way in which we approach education makes us happy.
Yes,
and that's our little selfish goal.
I'm sorry for coughing because I do have a sore throat today.
Yeah. I know.
I am completely dependent on swallowing tablets during the chat, but even with that, this makes me immensely proud, because this is something that you actually strive to achieve. I have 3 guys that are better than me right now on the paper, so you are better than me in certification side, and this motivates me. So this is completely fine with me. What I'm going to jump to is I want to use one of the questions from the chat on the YouTube, because this is an immensely important question. How do you define the optimal balance between the learning, working, and trying to certify yourself? Because you were trying to do all 3 of those, and then at the same time you actually had your own life, probably.
You have to.
Yeah, I'll let Luca speak.
I mean, you have to like learning new stuff. There's no other way around it. If you want to do it by force and just stuff things up your head, I mean, you're not gonna have a good time, and you probably won't pass the certificate. So your after work studies should be done because you want to do it. And if you have like friends and colleagues, like we do, to make things easier, that's also a plus. So, like if anybody has somebody like that that shares like the same duties for certifications, for example, from either that being the in a company or here in college, I would suggest always try to form like a study group, and just do it until you do it.
Carlos?
It's not actually a study group. You have to surround yourself with similar people like you. If you like what you do, try to find similar people. Don't essentially waste your time with people that are not interested in the same things you are. Because if you're in a passionate group and you all have a same or a similar goal, it's going to be a lot easier, because people are going to help you out. For example, all of the RHCE and all of 5 certificates after that, Luca and I studied together for like 400 hours or even more. And when you have a partner that you can rely on, and that he's going to push you and you're going to push him, you're going to say, okay, I can do it today. I don't know. I'm not.
Don't feel like it.
I don't feel like it. I have to go somewhere. He says, hey man, we have to. We have to do it.
One thing to add here. One of the most fundamental things that we've heard throughout this conversation, and you just confirmed it yet again. I heard it actually as an underlying thing 3 or 4 times already. One of the famous quotes that your or our or their or worldwide guru called Linus Torvalds has about general approach to life, not only education, is those who can do, those who can't complain. That's exactly what you were just discussing. I don't feel like it, I'm tired, I want to drink some beer, I want to go out, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's a perfect metaphor of what a lot of people are doing, basically while searching for some kind of a goal, higher goal, whatever it is, certification, exam, knowledge, books, whatever it is, and which is exactly the reason why I put so much onus on the word discipline. No discipline, no results. Be very straightforward.
I want to go back to that question. So this doesn't mean that we didn't have any life except for the job, the certifications, and for the college. Like for example, I'm into rowing, and I row, I go to the gym, I play video games when I can, not as much as I used to, of course, but I can still have fun, and I don't feel like I've been, whipped until my back cracked to get these certificates. It was, I don't know. Yeah, it was easy to consume.
Okay. To be on the lighter side, Kubernetes is sort of a video game. It can be considered an adventure with open terrain and completely open quests.
Yeah, I've shared on the Discord, somebody made a Minecraft mode where you can actually do basic Kubernetes administration while playing Minecraft.
Is it better than the GUI?
I mean, it's full GUI.
No, it's better than the official GUI.
I haven't seen the official GUI yet.
Okay.
Good for you.
Yes, this is why I'm asking. So, were there any points in time when you said to yourself, "Okay, I cannot do this"? What is your recipe, let's say Mate, what is your recipe to overcome the point when you say, okay, I have enough of this, this is my, I don't know, third exam that I need to pass, 2 more of this I cannot stand. So how do you overcome this thing in education when you're oversaturated with information, when you have to motivate yourself because nobody else can?
You have to realize how fortunate you are to even have this opportunity. You have to realize that there are 2 other guys who will probably do it before you, which really hurts a lot. And there are multiple people.
It's because these are the guys that are going to be before you, or there are some other
Yeah,
two
they
guys?
passed RHCA a couple of months before he did.
It's an internal competition, you
Okay.
know, but it's positive.
They are driving themselves
Who
forward.
Who won?
I think I was the first.
Okay.
But Luca
Like
won.
the next day, I think.
It's not that you're counting, but you're the first.
Yeah, but Luca has actually, he's a level 2 architect, so
Yeah.
he has even more. He has like.
Okay.
8.
So back to Mate.
Back to Matt, yeah.
And
That's why he's on layer 2 support.
and
Just kidding.
alongside having 7 Red Hat certifications, I also have 1 Microsoft certification, which they don't. So that's my internal
So
win.
this is interdisciplinary.
That's my
certification.
W.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we need to go back to that.
What about ITIL?
I also have ETL, yes, version 4, Foundations.
And ECDL.
No, I don't have ECDL.
Okay.
So you don't know how to write in Microsoft Word.
I do not.
You need to finish this.
As if you do.
Yeah.
But I'm ECDL certified.
Are you?
Yes.
That means you know Excel.
No.
Okay.
No. Nobody knows Excel.
But he says that I'm Excel manager.
Yes. About the certification, what do you say to people who say that certification is just trying to collect the cards? Because there are people who think that being certified or having multiple certifications at the same time is just a way of you trying to collect different certification without any actual use or without any actual result. This is the thing that always bothers me, because people who say that don't understand how much time do you need to spend, and they don't see the point of all of this. What do you say to those people, Carlo?
We actually had an internal joke at some point. We were joking like, okay, we're basically collecting NFT art, badges that you can show off.
And still no swag from Red Hat.
Yeah, and still no swag from Red Hat. Yeah. What?
Go ahead.
What do I say to those people? Well, yeah. Let me actually think about it, because I like when things are measurable. And how are you going to measure progress if you don't have a milestone to verify that you've come to the destination? So let's say you have to learn a new skill for your job, or out of curiosity, how will you measure that you've arrived at the destination? Well, it's an exam, and you get certified for the thing you learned. That's basically it, So if somebody says it's collecting cards, I mean, sure it is, but I've learned a ton of stuff while I was collecting them. So,
From my point of view, I think definitely it's some sort of competition. I mean, it's whatever really, but let's say it's competition where you collect cards. And I think it probably comes to that because, like I said before, I played amateurish esports. So I don't know, I feel kind of competitive about it. But other than that, when it comes to the education itself, before I took my first system administrator certificate, I used to read Linux Bible and Linux for Dummies. That's how I consumed knowledge about Linux, and that's all fine and dandy. But like he said, there needs to be some sort of goal. I can read those books, but at the end, I want to have something a bit more tangible. And certifications are a nice way for the vendors to distill a knowledge about their technology, provide it to you, and say, hey, this is something that we think an engineer that's using our technology should know. And after that, you have sufficient enough knowledge to, if you find any gaps in your knowledge, you can easily Google it because you know what questions to ask.
So basically what you're talking about is that you are self-validating through the exams.
Yeah,
That's the word. Self-validating.
Okay, Vedran has a question.
Luca used the perfect metaphor actually. For something that I told you, but later in our, let's say, so-called relationship, like student-teacher, which is that learning about things can be directly linked to sport. It's a perfect metaphor. Because sport teaches you a couple of things that you will value later in life immeasurably. It teaches you how to play by the rules. It teaches you how to win. It teaches you how to lose. And it teaches you how to never give up. If your end goal is to become good at something, of course, which not a lot of people do when they are into sports, which is also okay. And I'm not saying that they're a better person or not as good a person because of that, but the sport itself is a perfect metaphor for this, because basically you guys are playing your sport between the three of you. And the sport is who gets to certification first or something like that, which is perfect. Why the hell not?
It's a case of healthy competition, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. How to drive yourself forward. That's always a good competition. Okay.
I'm going to use one more question from the comments. How do you start? You had, from what I saw and what I heard, you said that basically your start was algebra and the thing that we did here. But if you are unable to go to algebra and meet the nice people here like Vedran and me, what do you think? What is the best way to start when you need to make yourself learn new things? How do you avoid getting a job, getting stuck at a job, getting nowhere, and then basically iterating this for 30 years? Where do you start?
YouTube, plural site, CBT nuggets, do whatever. Just start somewhere, anything. Install Linux if you're into Red Hat. Install Linux on your machine. See how it feels. See when you first need to zip a file that it's somewhat a more complicated process than zipping a file on Windows, and you'll see why it is like that.
I think, like, for example, these two guys over here, they had a much different start to their careers than I did, since they had a much more better knowledge of Linux when they started working than I did back when I was in the Polytechnic school. To get started, try to find like a really entry level, like any sort of sysadmin job, for example in Linux. It won't pay good, but you'll get some practical knowledge out of it. And be on the hunt for books on Humble Bundle. There are tons of books on Humble Bundle. Like every month there's a new bundle of books for programming, system administration, which I myself bought and which helped me improve my career and my knowledge in Linux.
That's a nice thing. Humble Bundle is one of the good sources of material that is structured and at the same time cheap.
Yeah.
Carlo?
Well, obviously you have to be curious, and I would say you have to challenge yourself with difficult problems. Don't try to find an easy way out, because if you always are trying to find an easy way out, you're never going to have to go through the process. Yeah, that's basically it.
A little bit of pain goes a long way.
Yeah, a little bit of pain goes a long way. So challenge yourself, Yeah.
Okay. What do you think in terms of, let's say, the stuff that you're going to do in the future, for example? How are you approaching the topic of, okay, I've done one part of my life, I've switched a couple of jobs, I attended and achieved the skill set of a RedHat Certified Architect. Now, what's next?
Specifically for me?
Everybody.
It's a switch to something that's complementary to what I already know, specifically cloud. You know my passion about cloud more than anyone else. I preach about it all the time because I really like it. Because it really is a huge playground for everything I like. for Linux and mostly for automation. I think, yeah, cloud providers are the next step for me.
Okay, so basically...
We have an internal plan for that already.
Yes, okay. But basically the cloud is there because of the automation, or do you think that cloud can actually be useful to companies that are using it?
Cloud can definitely be beneficial to your business, but be careful.
This is the but I was waiting for.
It's extremely easy to spend a lot of money really fast.
Yes, I know. The numbers are insane in the cloud business. But let's now quickly switch away from certification as itself. How do you see the future of the IT? When we come to, when we talk about and think about operating systems, do you see that Linux as such has influenced the Windows in such a way that they're going to combine together into something that is going to be more or less quite the same, and it is going to become a desktop or the desktop, and then we are going to switch over to using servers on the Linux and desktops on whatever this operating system is going to be? Because we have seen desktops like Chrome OS that are Linux based, that are trying to create such a hybrid solution, which basically means that you're going to have a small amount of processing power on your side, and then you're going to have a lot of power on the cloud side. What do you see the future is? What do you think the future is?
I think that's the future solution for business studies and business things, business environments. I think as long as compliance allows it, you will have some sort of a thin client that may or may not look like a laptop, which has just a network connection and enough processing power to establish it, and things will probably run mostly in the cloud. You
do understand that that's a usage model which we recycled 20 times already.
This is the real one. It'll work this time.
So
because you want it so.
Yeah, I really do.
Linux desktop and this is going to work?
No.
Okay. So you're basically saying that Microsoft with the virtual PC is virtual PC in the cloud is something that is going to win in the end.
I hope so. I don't think it will. I hope so.
Okay. Okay. You guys?
No, I mean...
Any projections?
It's really hard to say, like, who knows? Like, for example, I think the IT industry, like a month or so ago, looked at pretty much hard market contraction until OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. Then it started booming again. So who knows, but I definitely think like some sort of AI integrated into operating systems, it will be much more than Siri or Cortana is. And other than that, I don't think it will all be cloud-based because of entertainment purposes, like, you know, playing video games and such. It's going to be a huge latency for the average consumer and for competitive gaming, for example, that everything should be cloud-based. So some things will be more in the cloud, but I don't think everything will be in the cloud.
Okay, but I see and think that gaming, and especially competitive gaming, is more of an edge case, because for the most part, gamers are not the crowd that is going to be in any way or form connected to the cloud. Okay. They need their own dedicated machines. They need a specific hardware and so on. But I don't see gaming becoming something that is going to drive the things forward. That's just me.
I mean, sure, like that's also a valid point, but you know, like coming back 20 years ago when I was like in my infancy of gaming wasn't cool back then. It became cool like 10 years ago, and it's only like evolving, and more and more people are playing it. I think.
Boy, are you wrong.
You think?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was playing at Spectrum, and back then gaming was cool. So
I mean, I'm looking at my generation. Like back when I was playing video games.
That's much better.
back when I was playing video games, everybody thought I was a nerd for playing video games. People didn't really like video games as much as I did.
But in all due respect, I think that people who play games are usually marked as nerds. I don't think that being marked as nerd is a bad thing because all of us here are in a special way nerds, and I think this is something that is not negative. But games are games, so I don't think they're going to influence the future. Carlo, I want to see your input because you said that you wanted to be a philosopher.
Yeah.
So I think that you have probably a different outlook than the rest of us.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know. But I wouldn't want things to converge in the sense of Microsoft desktop and, for example, Linux desktop. I wouldn't want things to converge because I think that stifles innovation, first and foremost. And on the topic of what will happen in IT in the future, I think that AI will play a big role in the sense of virtual assistants. You know, you could always have an earpiece in your ear, and you could talk to the machine, and it would be a very human experience, and you could actually do a lot more things, interact in a special kind of way with your environment, even with, let's say, augmented reality. You know, imagine the capabilities. So yeah, that's basically it. I wouldn't want converging. That's bad, in my opinion.
We had a couple of questions in the chat I want to share with you, actually. One of them is, I answered for you, but I want you to answer that yourself. Do you see yourselves as lecturers one day?
Ooh, that's a hard one, to be honest.
I mean, like back before, I did had some like mentoring experiences of onboarding new people on for the job, but yeah, it's too early to say, I think, because I still want to expand my practical knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe one day when I'm like 50, because I think I need a lot more experience before I start educating someone. I mean, I can talk about some topics, but I need more experience in the industry, so.
I would love to. I love that kind of attention. And I think whether or not I would be good at it is a different topic. That's for someone else to decide. But I would love to, whether or not I'm ready for it as well. I don't know, but I guess I would have to try in order to know.
Interesting. Because I had some conversation with Carlo as well on the topic. It seems that he changed his opinion.
Yeah, it changed my mind because I saw my current trajectory in the industry, and it's moving much faster than, for example, if I went into education now, and let's say the cost benefit of spending my time on doing education stuff isn't worth it, you know.
Just one point here. Do you think that certification changed the speed of your trajectory? You just mentioned that your trajectory is going up much faster.
Exactly what I wanted to ask.
Did this change with the certification, or did it change when you had to learn for the certification? So I'm talking about formal and informal knowledge.
Yeah, it actually changed. Not obtaining the certification, essentially, from only people that care are the people that know what is it about. But my, let's say, process changed, you know, the way I acquire new knowledge changed, the way I learn things changed, and I've seen that I'm capable of so much more. And as the certificates came to an end, you know, the last one or two, I actually developed a process in which I can cram a lot of knowledge in the least amount of time, and if I keep, doing rinse and repeat, anything can happen.
Okay, I wanted to add something to that, actually, because this is the topic that we covered on some of the classes in the undergrad program. Do you now understand, all three of you, what's the value of what I called the algorithm?
Yeah, the process. You have to develop your own process for whatever you're doing, you know.
Yeah, because doing stuff in that way, when you figure out the way in which success comes to you, of course, as a result of you investing time, money, energy, and all of that, that's a repeatable offense.
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking, because you can just rinse and repeat and almost always expect the same result being success.
Yeah, but
I want to interrupt you because Luca wanted to say something, and I see that he's eager.
Yeah, like I'm coming from a bit of a different background than you did. Like the question was like, how do the certificates, you know?
Yes.
Well, in my opinion, I think it helped me quite a lot with my career, since if you look at my CV, you can say that I'm a bit of a job hopper. But you know, I mean, that helped me pretty much to get the chance to actually talk with some of the companies to which I applied, because if we remove the certificates from my current CV and if I applied somewhere, I'm not a very attractive candidate.
Yeah, it's good that you're aware of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And semi-attacking the topic critically, because it is critical that you find a place for yourself, but then stick with it for a longer period of time if you want to really develop.
Yeah, but in my opinion, all of the places I left, I felt like I couldn't develop the way I wanted to. But like currently in Deutsche Telekom, it seems actually pretty good.
Excellent.
I want to just say one thing. When you touch the point of CVs and certificates, when it comes to CVs, a lot of people tend to stretch the truth. Let's call it that. And the problem is that when I need to interview somebody for a position, when I see a certificate, I always usually think about how much time did you need to spend to attain a certain certificate, and are there any shortcuts? So for example, if I see a typical Red Hat exam, I know that the shortcuts are basically just, could just be the way that you needed to make yourself learn faster. But you needed to actually get the knowledge. So for me, when somebody has a Red Hat certificate, what is actually happening is that I know that I don't need to talk about a lot of the stuff, because I know that you know what we're talking about. I can just consider you as you. And this is something what I like about Red Hat. It's not just because we are talking about Red Hat today. It is something that I like about Red Hat as a whole. So when it comes to all the other certificates, because for all the other certificates, I know that there are some shortcuts that you can take and make your exams easier to pass with less knowledge than I would expect from somebody who attained the certificate. And for Red Hat, I know that these are the practical exams administered objectively, or as objectively as possible. So I know what to expect. And ironically, when I see somebody who has passed something Red Hat based, I am not even going to talk about this, because I know what they know. I know what the exam looks like. I know what they had to learn. I know how they had to learn it. So I'm not interested in it, because this is something. So this is not what makes you interesting to people. It creates an aura around you as a person who knows what he's trying to do. And this is why I like a certification. This is something I just wanted to say. This is not directly connected to you. It's connected to the CVs.
You wanted to add something?
Yes. The path I took in certification was strictly the DevOps path of Red Hat. So containers, OpenShift, Kubernetes, things
And
like
Sybil,
that.
yeah.
My current position has nothing to do with Kubernetes, nothing to do with OpenShift. However, that didn't stop my now team lead, then recruiter, to still accept me based on the fact that I, by having, I think, 6 certifications at the time, showed at least some level of drive, at least some level of self-discipline, at least some level of feeling that I need to go forward, which is, I guess, applicable to every team in every company everywhere in the world.
Okay, question from the chat, actually. One of your colleagues asked it afterwards. I'm going to still repeat it. How much of the stuff that you learn on certification do you find to be applicable to your jobs versus how many things that you learn in projects on your jobs, and then try to put projects that you did here as a part of the discussion if you can. You don't have to have, you cannot have an exact number. It's impossible. But kind of like if you have a feeling about how first versus second versus third work.
When it comes to the knowledge of certificates and applied to work, I would say at best like 50%.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean the certificates are useless, because all of the technology that we've covered in our certificates, it's in some ways like either loosely connected to other technologies. It's really similar.
You really do not have to defend that.
Yeah.
We all know it.
Yeah, it's really similar. So it's easy, you know, like the more we learn about this, the more certificates we get and the more stuff we learn, the easier it will be to get more certificates further down the road, because it's just, everything's really similarly built.
I have a small gripe. I will just say this. Let's, for a second, pretend that we need to talk about the knowledge. I don't like the term certificates for the knowledge, because what you're actually talking about is the knowledge and different technologies that you have understood more or less. You need more, probably more experience in them, but you need something. Certificates are more like milestones.
Yeah.
You just create some sort of knowledge and the pool of knowledge, and then you say, okay, I have come to a point. This point has been certified by this. Then I'm going to continue. So when you said certificates are 50%, the knowledge is probably 50%, but certificates themselves are just
I agree.
thing.
This is a perfect metaphor, actually. These milestones or sprints, your favorite topic on the graduate level. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic now. Yeah, this is a very good point. I just wanted to say that.
There's a process of establishing goals in project management using the SMART method, which means every goal needs to be specific, has to be measurable, has to be achievable, has to be realistic, and time-oriented.
Now I'm scared.
And
We are coming to difficult topics now.
And certificates are exactly that. Certificates are great milestones for your learning path. Nothing else.
Question in the chat, by the way. Besides school and certificates, how much do you guys value networking, socializing as means to advance in the industry?
Well,
Fantastic question.
a lot, actually, yeah.
Your friend asked that one.
Yeah, well, it's, you can, in every industry, you can be political, but I usually stray away from that. I like to be open in my communication, and I like to help people solve their IT problems, If you have colleagues that are stuck on some issue, offer your help. Don't be like, oh, it's his problem.
Don't be an elitist or a snob or something like that.
Yeah. Don't be an elitist. So if you're a RHCA, don't pretend like you're some godly figure,
Oh, be humble.
Be humble. Essentially, be humble and be open to.
Just put the question out there. Do you support printers?
No, I don't. I used to support printers, but what did we call it? Spooler duty.
Spoiler duty, yeah.
Spooler duty.
Yeah.
We stopped doing that.
Yeah. If you didn't check IT Crowd and printer episode, everything you need to know about printers. Okay. How about you guys? Networking.
I don't have any sort of strong opinion on it. I'm a really open person, so how I usually act outside of professional life is pretty much almost the same as I act in the professional life. So I'm just a natural guy. I don't have any strong opinions about networking.
If I can pitch in just a bit, we haven't actually had a big networking event. All we had is work experience in the office, But actually, we're going to Amsterdam in April to KubeCon, and that will be a networking event which isn't specifically work related. It can be like.
I really like this approach because you are saying that KubeCon is the networking place for you.
Yeah,
I like that very much.
Yeah, it is, because you meet people that are interested in the same things as you, and you can maybe.
Yeah, I mean, aren't all of the conferences a networking place, a point where people come and meet each other and share ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like the fact that it's not local.
Yeah.
Every single position that I've had, including the one I have right now, I got through some sort of referral.
That's true.
So obviously networking was detrimental for me. It was the core of every opportunity I was ever given.
Yeah, yet it's still to come.
Hopefully.
Still to come as well. Yeah, okay. Let's see if there are any other questions there. Did any of you finally got your RedHat Architect merch? That's from
I
a
ordered it.
female colleague who is trolling some of you.
I ordered it. They didn't even get the link to the store where you can like confirm your RHCA gift. I did confirm. Although I never received like a confirmation email, so I don't really believe it's ever going to
It's
arrive.
RedHat, man. What do you think?
But
It's in the works. It's in the
It's
works.
in the works.
Yeah, the tax is going to build it in text mode for the next couple of years, and you're going to get it. It's
But
okay.
I really like the plaque. I wanted the plaque, nothing else.
Yeah, it was a milestone for you.
It was a huge milestone.
I want the
I
T-shirt because I hate going shopping. So please send me a T-shirt.
Please
RedHat.
send me the so you come to a podcast so that we can ask for additional swag.
Yeah.
You are my hero, man.
I mean, I like the whole package: the fedora, the T-shirt, and the plaque.
Power you.
It's
Any-
absurd that we're even discussing this.
No,
RedHat
it's
swag.
not. Well, why not? Okay. Any additional questions before we start with the last part of our conversation? Do you guys have any questions? We can switch tables as well.
KDE or Gnome?
Gnome.
Gnome.
Yes. Always Gnome.
But I have
Always the most vanilla, defaultish, commonly used interface, because I honestly don't like, I'm trying to avoid the word hate here, I don't like neither of those. So I think that in order to keep my sanity and to be able to actually, when I need to approach the GNOME desktop, I need to use the most common desktop. So GNOME, but not for good reasons.
But why
Can I pitch in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
FVWM95.
Of course, that's something archaic and obscure.
Not gonna
However, the question was supposed to be a bit broader. KDE or GNOME or XFCE, both on X and Wayland, with NVIDIA graphics cards and AMD.
Yeah, I love Nouveau stuff that happens there.
Okay. Let's try to unravel this thing. XFCE, if I need to choose, because it's the most basic, and I like it because it looks basic. It can be made to look better, but by default it's basic and it works. NVIDIA has its own ideas about how to approach compatibility with Linux, and I would.
If I can pitch in, that work most of the time.
Yes.
Unlike AMD.
Yes, but the idea that I like about desktops right now on Linux is that basically none of those use too many of the advanced features of the graphic cards. And I call this simplicity in UI a good thing, because I dislike transparent windows. I dislike all the, because my first desktop was on the DEC machine, so something like a transparent window wasn't even possible. I dislike eye candy that is covering the inability of the window manager to actually do common things.
Do you know what was our first real graphical interface that we used back in college? Both him and me and one of the persons in the chat. Exceed. Do you know what it is?
I think
It rings very,
It's
very
basically remote X Windows.
Remoting X.
well.
Yeah, like X remoting. That's what we had in the labs.
And you can do it today.
On any Unix distribution, it's doable.
We are not
compatible.
sponsored. We are not sponsored by anybody, but when it comes to software. But I'm just going to mention the Xterm. on mobile Xterm, which is actually able to remote
forward
the X. Yes,
Yeah,
and
we
it
like
is
that.
able to remote the X. You can open the windows inside it because it has an X server in it.
I think we all use mobile.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. So
I have a
Shut up.
strong, very firmly put matrix for determining your desktop environment.
Okay.
AMD plus X is KDE.
Okay.
AMD plus Wayland is XFCE in case you need VNC.
Okay.
If you don't, then you can go with Gnome with a lot of like specialization and personalization.
Question, Professor.
Yes.
What if you need TeamViewer?
Then you probably own a Windows PC because you have a lot of money. So you don't need these
You know
open
why I'm
source.
asking.
I do.
I have to troll you a little bit.
If you're on NVIDIA, stay away from Wayland altogether. Use X and use KDE. And in case of using Intel integrated graphics,
Pray the Lord my soul to keep.
don't use the desktop environment at all. Go with a window manager, something alongside BSP, WM, or DWM.
Okay, this is pretty specific, but okay, I'm with you. I would need your table on the piece of paper on an Excel or in a whatever sheet, but I'm with you. I see that you did your homework on the compiling and
I'm testing
retrying.
useless stuff that nobody wants to know about.
I have my mileage in this, and this is a matrix that I didn't make up the rules. They write themselves.
Ah, okay.
As a result of a practical experience. Yeah.
So whatever it takes, basically.
Basically.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oof, I don't have anything currently popping
Okay.
to my mind.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, then we're going to slowly, wrap it up. Before we do, I want to share some information with you that you might find to be stupid, uninteresting, boring, idiotic, and humorous at the same time.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm good at that. So I have a very, very reasonable predisposition why I want to discuss this with you, because we had numerous discussions as a part of your, let's say, staying here at Algebra over the past whatever years. We had discussions about topics that you mastered. We had discussions about topics that you didn't master. We had discussions about everything in between. And I remember some of our first disagreements when we started discussing certain topics that we teach here. Specifically, this was something that I discussed with Carlo a lot years ago. This is first time not putting Mate on the spot or Luca. Luca to come in the future. That's our future discussion. And at a certain point in time, I made Carlo's life a little bit difficult in one situations involving his graduate thesis and some of the questions that I asked him, because I did it on purpose, because he did something that you should never do in front of us. If you remember the topic that we were discussing, it was related to statistics.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he has a headache. That's it.
Oh yeah.
But actually, I wanted to kind of like cover that from a little bit different perspective today, because then I was just yanking your chain. You know that I just wanted to try to yet again make you aware that it's a valuable tool for something, but today I'm going to use it for something else. I want to kind of like answer to some of the questions that you asked, actually both of you asked on second year of college, because that's when both of you kind of like sniffed at statistics and said, that's useless, nobody cares. Yes, you did. He did it first, you did it later, by the way. Yeah. The thing is that when you, because we, as I said, we talked about stuff that's important and stuff that's less important to us. Statistics ranks and mathematics among the high things on your list of stuff that you don't necessarily care about. I understand that. That's okay. That maybe that has changed somewhat in the past couple of years, but still very far away from the level that if I can be so blunt, I expect from you. This is something that I've considered for a long time. Basically, one time when we were discussing this, you asked me why you need to learn about certain topics. We talked about economical topics, we talked about statistics, mathematics, etc. There were different topics, non-IT related. Or so you thought they were from your perspective that you had then, which is okay. And
I'm sorry.
yeah, you are not excused. You're constantly showing me off my course. Nah, just kidding. He's not. I'm just playing games. I wanted to revisit that topic because some of the other topics that we covered, I gave you complete answers to those. But when it comes to economic topics that you mentioned and statistical topics that you mentioned back then, I gave you half-baked answers on purpose because I knew that we were going to talk about it eventually. And this is the time when it's going to happen. When you were second and third year, second for you, third for you, you treated those topics as cancer in your education, somewhat. Uninteresting, boring, I don't want to know about it, etc. I'm not putting you on the spot. It's okay. I understand why. But I didn't expand on those things deliberately because I was 100% sure that there's going to come a time when I will. And here's the reason why. So when we were talking about economics, I told you that you need to know how an invoice looks like, or a work order, something as simple as that. Reason being because if you don't know how that works, if you make an invoice that is not correct, our tax system has a very nice way of making sure that you are very much naked the next day if somebody finds out about it, because there are strict rules guiding that. A lot of the stuff that you learn there are not fact-based. This is your primary problem, because you like stuff that is fact-based and measurable, which is good and bad at the same time, because life doesn't consist of always rationally managed things. It consists of various different types and shades of gray color, which you don't want to get yourself involved with, but you have to, because that's what life is. But there's actually a couple of other things that are very important for that discussion as well. You are a lot into fact-checking. You are very immersed into the topics of fact-checking in IT. You go check some article, try to apply that to a problem. You see if it works or not. You are true-false people a lot of the times, which is wrong as well at the same time. But for IT, it works because it either works or doesn't. That's what IT is. It's a functional or non-functional entity. And you have to either make it work, you enjoy it, and then if it doesn't work, you have to make it work. And you're very pragmatic about it. But the reason why we, as an educational institution, taught you different topics related to that, which you couldn't understand then, but you will understand now, is because somebody needs to teach you those things. A, because you are not students of those topics anywhere else. You're not going to learn all of those topics as a part of your daily job. If someday you want to, let's say, open a company, it's going to come back to haunt you. It's going to be very difficult for you if you don't. But there's a larger disposition of why this is important. It is because nobody teaches you that, and that's detrimental to you. The reason why a lot of the times you don't get education in stuff related to finances specifically is because there is no interest in that, because there is no money to be gained for it. If you are very well versed into finances, credits, in leasing stuff, percentages, leasing rates, all of those things, then you are informed. And the industry doesn't want you necessarily to be informed because somebody stands to make profit from you in the longer term. This is the reason why we teach those subjects. Furthermore, a couple of months ago, we had a conference about it. One of our colleagues that I don't think you had him as a professor, made a conference about exactly that. credit scores, credit rating, how to apply for credit, how to work with papers, how to calculate your credit rates and all of that. We teach you those stuff because you have to know about them. It's not a question, it's a must. It's a prerogative of ours. Because nobody teaches you that, it's to your detriment, because nobody stands to make money from it. Our gain from that is like third level tangential, if you understand what I want to say. This makes absolutely no sense from my perspective to teach you that if I look at your education as IT education. I want to teach you more about IT. That's my goal. But I understand and value the value of those topics because they will make you better people for the life outside of IT, which is something that you still, that you are yet to find out about. For like not everything about it, but a large part of it is still ahead of us, and you need to be prepared for that. So, with that being said, I like your arrogance and hubris in those respects, because that's what it was. You know, it was misinformed type of that, which is the reason why nobody minds that. But have a thought in your mind somewhere that you were wrong. Okay?
It's okay to be wrong. I mean,
yes.
It's okay to be wrong, but it's not okay not to learn how to deal with those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, value of education is not just the value of stuff that you learn about Red Hat, Microsoft, VMware, and networking and security. That's a big part, but not the only part. The other things that you were learning on the side, this is a conscious effort that people here make as a part of your study programs. We know that you are going to take a spit bottle and have your way with us on the surveys, which is what you usually guys do. Not you particularly, but generally speaking. But there is a larger and very important life reason why you have to have topics like that here. And it's much better to have those than physics number 4 and physics number 5.
But that's fun.
It's not. Even for myself and for Jasmin, who attended a vastly different era of college education, and we had multiple different topics on physics, electrotechnics, and mathematics, etc. We had 7 or 8 courses on mathematics, you had 2. And you already complained about it. You bunch of snowflakes.
I'm just going to, before he starts completely losing it,
I'm done.
I'm just going to say one thing. When it comes to knowledge, one of the greatest misconceptions that I have heard during the courses was when a dear guy, he was a dear student, and he's actually working for us today, told Vedran that he doesn't know anything about networking because he's into Linux. He doesn't know anything about networking, and this actually has a point for me, because in order to know Ansible, for example, you need to know a lot of fundamental things below that. You need to know how networking functions. You need to know how, I don't know, secure communication functions. You need to know a lot of programming, to be honest, in order to understand how you need to know about how packaging managers work and so on and so on. So it is completely wrong to say that some kind of education makes you too specific in your education. So if I said you are right now RedHat Certified Architects, this means that you don't know anything about Windows. This is completely wrong, because we are coming to a point where you actually, your certification and Windows certification and everything else, yes?
I mean, like I have a feeling you're talking about me.
No. I'm talking about him, because he was put on the spot. A guy said that he doesn't know networking. And
that I hate one of my colleagues.
And that you hate one of your colleagues.
Which I don't.
But the problem is that people think that up to a point, when they are not educated enough, I don't say that they are stupid. I'm saying that they lack enough formal education to understand how important stuff is and how much did you put behind you. Yes?
I mean, that reminds me like 3 years ago, back when we were working in Setcore. Like my view of my view of it all was, I don't care about networking. I'll be doing Linux. And I mean, of course, I changed my mind.
No, I'm completely with you.
No,
I don't
your
care.
life changed your mind.
No. I don't care about networking either. I know a guy who cares about networking, but I need to understand enough networking to be able to tell him what I need.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But for example, like the current networking courses that we're having, I find them really interesting because you don't know there's the technologies.
But basically, with all the knowledge, there is the Dunning-Kruger effect. You need to know enough to understand the stuff, and then you are actually, you know enough to be able to actually do the stuff.
And you know enough about the topic so that you understand how much you don't know about something.
Yeah.
And the networking
Which is just as important.
Yeah.
Because the networking, to be honest, is a boring topic for most of us. There is a guy behind us right now rolling his eyes around because he's into networking, but I'm extremely glad that I know a guy like him, because he's a master of networking and he's able to do whatever whatever needs to be done. And my networking knowledge needs to be good enough just to be able to explain what I need.
Yeah.
And that's it. So with this, I'm going to say that we need to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I just want to leave you with 2 quotes that I was discussing in my head what has to be the end message for you 3.
Is it going to get emotional?
No.
Okay.
Nah, we're going to do that later. Mark Twain, I think, said, "I never let my schooling get in the way of my education."
Oof, that's a good one.
That's what I was discussing 5 minutes ago. Okay? So that's for you. And for the rant that I had 5 minutes ago. From our perspective as an educational institution, the service that we try to provide for you is not only education. I know that you are painfully aware of that because we did so many different things aside from education. But it's not only that. It's about figuring out the way for yourself to influence something that's bigger than you. Our lives are like that because we try to help guys like you and many copies of you that are either on your level or lower level or somewhere in between, doesn't really matter, to get to your level and above. For that purpose, don't ever forget that our purpose as educators is not, and I remember what Mate was saying earlier and what you were saying earlier as well. We kind of played a little bit with your egos at times, knowing that you had them. He is still on it because he's still third-year student, so he's yet to receive his portion of education on that part because he is the same as you are, no difference whatsoever. You're like from the same cloth, okay? But the end quote that I want to tell you is that this is something that's from one of Jasmin's and myself from one of our favorite shows. Never underestimate a group of intelligent and organized citizens when they put their minds to something and when they want to elicit change. Because as history shows us, that is the only thing that ever changed anything.
Yes, it's about the community. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm going to finish with what's next.
I don't know. We have one more podcast which is already in YouTube. Another one that needs to be it needs to go through video editing. We have at least 15 topics in our document for the future. We are also taking requests. I saw one of them. I'm going to add them. The topic was Windows certification. So that also deserves to be covered, absolutely. And this is something that we're going to do in the future.
Okay, and for the end thing, I would like to thank you guys for being an inspiration, because you are. I'm just going to make a quick point. You remember your primary teacher from the primary school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. This is the person whose main and only purpose is to make you better than him or her. Because if everything is okay, you need and must be better in mathematics, better in physics, even if the physics and mathematics are in the primary teacher curriculum. And the only reason why he or she is there is to create the learning environment and make you understand the learning. So when you said that you're better than the teacher, you always should be. And this is fine with me, this is fine with Vedran, because this is the point of education. You need to be better than the teacher, because you are always going to be. And this is good. So, thank you guys for this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you for everybody online as well for the questions. We'll see each other in future episodes.
And thank you for the comments.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.